Hello, nerds. Welcome back to the news. I, as always, am generally nerdy. This is your week in Nerdom. So we have honestly a ton to get through today in gaming and in movies, and just the intrigue level is through the roof this week. So let's talk, teasers for the episode. What could possibly cause one of the world's biggest aggressive music labels, aggressive music specifically, and it is a music label, therefore aggressive music label, what could possibly cause them to lose their entire YouTube channel? We're going to talk about that. There's also new details on that big Marvel DC crossover. We now know some of the personnel involved as far as the other stories are concerned outside of Batman and Deadpool. In gaming and tech, did Microsoft seriously just secretly launch a bespoke console? There's stuff to unpack there. Sarah Michelle Gellar has said explicitly the plan for the new Buffy series. We have the name for the mostly confirmed director for the new X-Men movie. And there is an earth-shattering, if true, rumor in the rumor mill about the future of the MCU. Earth-shattering is really not necessarily clickbait. This is potentially the biggest rumor to come out of the rumor mill in the last 15 years, and honestly, that might be an understatement still. So we have all of those pieces. We have legitimately a bunch more this week, so don't forget to grab your W s'mores and let's sit down and get to the news, shall we? So this week in music, things got a little weird. We're going to look into what happens when one of the biggest record labels in aggressive music somehow loses their entire YouTube presence overnight. We'll also be diving into the first new Primus tracks with their new drummer. And we're going to be trying to unpack exactly why Marilyn Manson is being protested by UK politicians. We got that to unpack. We have quite a bit more, so let's go. All right, so kind of big guns coming out the gate. We have a follow-up with the Mastodon Brent Hinds situation that just was breaking as of this morning. This gets really hairy. So Mastodon, the band, the identity, the thing that we all love, and the music that we seriously have grown up with at this point, most of us, they split with their guitar player. We're gonna get TLDR real quick, just to kind of set this up a little better. They split with their guitar player, founding member Brent Hinds. Brent was a little bit of a character, I guess is the nice way to put it. Kind of got them in a little bit of hot water as far as media is concerned and the social landscape of the time, a number of times throughout the course of the last decade or so. Brent also, in interviews where he was doing solo interviews, had made comments throughout the years of how he'd rather be playing this kind of music or that kind of music. He didn't really feel like he wanted to be in a metal band anymore. So when the band made the announcement, hey, we've decided to split ways with our guitar player Brent Hinds, we still love and care for him. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. We're very grateful for the things he has contributed to the oeuvre that is our history. And, people grow apart. It's like a marriage. It's just we need to do other things. And that was the official statement from the band. As of this point in time, that is still the official statement of the band. They still wish him well from the official statement. It says that fairly explicitly. Well, Brent being Brent, there was a post on the Instagram page from Mastodon about an anniversary for, I forget which record it was. I think it's 10 years since Emperor of Sand, not 10 years, but an anniversary for, I'm pretty sure it was Emperor of Sand is the record that they were memorializing. Maybe it was, it was the one with the hunter on it, and I'm gonna blank the name of the record because I didn't put it in the notes because it's fairly irrelevant. They're just talking about, it's been so many more times around the sun since we wrote this record, 11 more times around the sun. So it was an 11-year anniversary since this record came out. And someone in the comments very shortly thereafter wrote, this is my favorite track. I'm going to miss Behind though. And Brent almost immediately responds to the fan in the comment section on the Mastodon post in Instagram, saying something to the effect of, I won't miss playing in that shitty band with those horrible people. There was a pretty large spelling error in there because he, instead of spelling won't, we're assuming that's what he meant because he spelled want. I want remember, or I want regret, something along those lines. So it can be assumed that he was probably still drunk, very likely from the bender that he did on the night before, because he's a notorious drinker, Brent Hinds. But just animosity. All of the sudden, Brent is just showing his true colors. Once again, this is not really a surprise. It's kind of a surprise that he's saying these things about people that he was in a very healthy, presumably, and very creative and loving, might not be the best word, but cohesive working relationship for 25 years. He was in that band for 25 years. And then he quit, and they wish him well, and he calls them shitty people, a shitty band, and horrible people. This is just ridiculous. We're witnessing the downfall of a guitar hero. Brent Hinds is a hell of a musician. He's a hell of is a hell of a player, is where I was going with that, and just also a hell of a drinker and a kind of a horrible person himself, it would seem. So yeah, that's kind of where that sits right now. Brent's not super happy about no longer being in Mastodon, but it's not in the way that he wants to be back in Mastodon. It's just that I think A, again, there was alcohol involved, and B, he's bitter that he can't. It's either he's bitter that he doesn't negatively affect them by not being in the band, or he's bitter because he doesn't have the same success with his other projects as he did when in Mastodon. So one of those two things. I really don't think there's a third option here. I don't know, man. What's your take on it? I'm passing this one off to you because I think it's kind of hilarious. Honestly, I think it's really funny. But that's what we have for follow-ups and corrections. Let's talk about some new music that has been released this week. And this is kind of a little bit of stretch. It's new music in that these are new recordings, and technically the song is the newest song from this band, but not exactly new in the freshest sense of the word. But Primus is releasing a new 7-inch vinyl. 7-inch vinyl is going to be for their song Little Lord Fentanyl. And it is going to have a number of variations. You can go reserve your copy now of the vinyl. The song has been on streaming services for about 2 months at this point. So if you haven't heard it, go check it out, because honestly, some of the better Primus that's come out over the course of the last few years. So I totally dig this new track. But this is the first studio recording, Little Lord Fentanyl's first studio recording of their new drummer, where'd his name go? John Hoffman. The B-side on this 7-inch is a live recording of their song Duchess and the Proverbial Mind Spread. This song came out, originally the studio version came out in, a long time ago. I didn't put that in the notes because I take amazing notes, you know this. But this is a live version that was recorded at the Mann Music Center in Philadelphia. And this is the first live recording with drummer John Hoffman. So super exciting there. The physical copies of this record, if you don't pre-order it, there should be some available on the next Primus tour, which happens in July. Physical copies in retail will not be available until August. So if you want it sooner rather than later, go pre-order it so you get it in the mail, or wait and buy it from the band directly at the show. And if you really don't want to do either of those things, or you can't afford to go see them at the show because concerts are really expensive these days, and no one should be financing concert tickets. That is ridiculous. Don't do it. But if you can't afford that, then you got to wait until August in order to get the physical copy in stores. That is the one piece of new music news that we have. Let's talk about tours that have been announced since we last spoke. First up, and the one that I'm potentially the most excited about in this list this week, is AFI. They have announced a North American tour, begins September 30th in Madison, Wisconsin, runs through November 5th in San Diego, California, and will be with support from, I'm I think the band's name is Trist, though TR/ST is how it's written. So I don't know which of those is the pronunciation or if either of those is the pronunciation, but I'm going to go with Trist. So that is the supporting band. No other bands have been announced. Very likely, considering the last few years, the last few tours AFI has gone on, they are just doing basically their entire catalog. Each night is a different set list. Probably just playing for a long damn time on stage. And I love it. I think they're one of the few bands that really should do something like that, just because the breadth of different subgenres that they cover throughout the course of their history is so wide that it just makes for a super interesting night, and they're very good musicians, so it's really fun. But yeah, AFI, it's starting once again September, running through November. It's a decent tour. Tickets will be on sale soon. Follow the link in the description. They are in pre-sale currently, and I couldn't get a pre-sale tag, so I apologize, but follow the link. They'll be up soon. Go get them. Next tour on this list is from the band In This Moment. This is the Black Mass tour. It will be featuring Dayseeker, Funeral Portrait, and Dead. This tour starts in September as well, September 18th in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, runs through October 24th in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Though they just start and end in Pennsylvania, they go around the country as well. That's where it goes. And then also tickets for this one can be found down low. Those ones are currently on sale, so if you're looking for some In This Moment tour tickets, go get them. And then Gwar, we knew this one was coming, but now they have officially announced dates. This is the return of Gorgor tour. It's going to be with Helmet, the Dwarves, and Blood Vulture. Don't know who the hell Blood Vulture is, but the other two are going to make for a hell of a show paired up with Gwar for sure. This one starts in October 18th in Salt Lake City, Utah, runs through November 27th in Norfolk, Virginia. So that is that. Again, tour tickets, I believe for this one are on sale as well, so go check out the link in the description. And then potentially the most artsy kind of cool kind of tour announced this last week is the Queens of the Stone Age have announced the Catacombs Tour 2025. So they just released a live record from the Catacombs where they recorded it, and it was really cool. It was a live recording in the Catacombs. I can't remember exactly which catacombs they recorded it in, but either way, that's the shtick here, is they're doing a whole tour where they find these really cool little venues that are super old and have these awesome stories. The official quote for the description of this tour is that it is a limited series of very special one-night only evenings at a curated selection of North America's most historic theaters. So there will be a European leg of this tour as well. It is currently being solidified. None of those dates have been announced just yet. This is starting in October, on October 2nd in Chicago, runs through November 21st in New Orleans, Louisiana. There's only 11 dates on this tour, so they are going to sell out super fast because a lot of these older theaters that they're choosing are very small venues. So go check out the link in the show notes, because that is the only way to get in. As far as I was able to tell, it didn't look like they were doing a pre-sale for this, though I could be wrong. I just didn't see it. So, because I didn't even look at the tickets page, because I know I'm not going to be able to afford it. So that is what we have for tours and festivals this week in music. Let's talk about some regular ass news. The big one here that we're kicking off the subsection with is Nuclear Blast Records has lost their YouTube channel. No explanation as to why. The only thing that Nuclear Blast themselves are saying is that it is an external issue, quote unquote. Whatever the hell that means is really up to anybody's interpretation, because nobody is elaborating on it. YouTube is not making any comment, because why would they? And Nuclear Blast, that is their comment. External issue. What is? I don't understand. Last week we didn't talk about this. Actually, it might have even been 2 weeks ago, but still we didn't talk about it. They're pulling off of X. They're no longer going to be using Twitter. as a promotion social media platform. They're just not going to be there anymore because reasons. I'm sure it has something to do with Elon Musk being a Nazi or something like that, because, oh my God, whatever. But so they made that announcement, and part of that announcement was that you can still find us on all of our other social media pages, and then they made a list of all the other social medias they're on: Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, because that's why they're leaving Twitter, I'm sure. And then YouTube was part of that list. Now they don't even have a YouTube channel, and that seems to be out of their control, because also part of the statement where they blame it on a, quote, external issue, they also say that they're working with YouTube in order to reinstate their channel. So if you're looking to watch something on Nuclear Blast's YouTube channel, it might be a few days before you can. Next up on the list, we have Marilyn Manson is being protested once again. Apparently it's cool to like Marilyn Manson because politicians have once again begun protesting him. This time it's in the UK. It is two separate politicians. One of the politicians is a council member for the township that he's trying to play, well, that he's booked to play in. Like the tour is booked, and this is not affecting anything on the tour yet. Very likely will not. Neither of these politicians have the pull in order to cancel the show. But we'll get to it. Some petitions have been signed at the behest of the second politician. But the first politician is a council member, a city council member, or something along those lines, for the township that Manson's trying to play in. The township is called, and it's actually three separate towns that are together politically. Being, where is it? I know I wrote it down. There it is. Bournemouth, maybe? Bournemouth in the UK. So again, this is UK show. And she says that she doesn't feel that the shock rocker, quote, reflects the values, unquote, of the community that she is a part of. It seems that, again, this is all for naught because the council that she sits on has no control over the venue. Like, there is some sort of like backdoor stuff, or maybe makes it sound a little bit more nefarious. They have a contract with this venue, but specifically for their events, not as a means of controlling the venue. So this is all just a show. But then there's another politician who's slightly higher up in the world of politics in the UK. This one is, and there's a longer quote from him, but this is the one that has a couple of petitions that have been signed by like the local college and victim organizations that try to help victims and stuff, because his stance is not only a moral stance. All of this stems from, by the way, all of the accusations that Manson is currently trying to fight, that we've been covering ad nauseum for the news media at large has been covering ad nauseum for some time, for many years at this point, and most of which by now are on their way out of court, either being dismissed or settled out of court, so that we don't know the specific details of certain things or what have you. But either way, by and large, Manson is being found to be not guilty on a lot of these, and some of these are being found to have been fabricated, false accusations pressed up against the shock rocker in order to damage his reputation, which I don't know if you followed Marilyn Manson's career. It does the opposite. So, I mean, there's that. But this secondary politician, the one with slightly more power, but again, not enough power to stop the show from happening because still booked, he's making this an issue of victims' rights. He's saying that he doesn't want people in the community to feel re-victimized. He doesn't want people to get victimized by Manson's existence in their community, which is pretty wild. But it is the UK, so like stuff like that shouldn't really surprise us, right? But I had to quote, there's a big long quote that he made, a statement that he made that really is just a whole lot of virtue signaling of, I'm better than you because I hate this shock rocker, is basically how it translates. But I had to quote one of these paragraphs because it was too good. So part of his statement reads, and I quote, "Freedom of expression is an important principle that should be defended." That's how he starts this statement. But continuing on, including in relation to artists. So far, totally on board, bro. But, we knew that one was coming. But there is an obvious risk to community cohesion, and the council has separate obligations to foster equities? No, equalities. What the hell? Equality's obligations to foster good relations between people who share protected characteristics and people who do not share them. So it's legal mumbo jumbo of him saying, I should believe in freedom of speech and freedom of expression, but because I disagree with the stances that this person makes, or I disagree with the ideals this person represents, I don't think he should have freedom of expression. I don't think he should be protected by these rights. And again, this is all really just posturing because neither of these politicians have the ability to do anything about it. They just want to look good in the what they think is look good in the eyes of the people that they are going to vote for them. I don't know how the UK politics works, but Marilyn Manson's cool again because people hate him that are stick in the muds. Like, I mean, kudos to more so, I think, the female councilwoman, because hers is more of like, she understands the people in that township, in the whole little town area, because like I said, it's the 3 separate towns. She understands like the moral stuff that goes on there, like the things that they stand for, probably a little bit better than the guy who's further up the rung. And her stance is she's not getting extra like virtue signal stuff involved. She's just saying, I don't think that this should be here. It can happen somewhere else, but I don't think that the people in my community are going to support this. I think she's wrong, but I think that like that's still something that she fully believes in, she's sticking to. The other guy, I don't think he really believes what he's saying. I think he's just posturing to look good. So that's where we stand. Let me know what you think. Let's move on because we spent way too much time on Manson. That is actually the last piece of regular ass news here in the music section. Let's talk now about our suggestion for the week. Musical suggestion this week is Knocked Loose's most recent record, You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To. This is one of the biggest aggressive releases in the last few years. One of the biggest standout tracks here is Suffocate. Obviously, it's everywhere. It's the song with Poppy, but the rest of the album is equally, if not better, equally as good, if not better. So this is, I mean, Knocked Loose is one of those bands that bridges the gap between hardcore and metal, and I fully am here for it because it is just like, it's good mosh music. It's good motivating, like exercise music. It's good high energy, just want to break stuff kind of music, and sometimes like that's cathartic. So that's your suggestion for the week. Knocked Loose's You Won't Go Before You Have To. All right, I'm cutting in here real quick just to remind, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. But that's kind of not necessarily what we're talking about. Really what we're talking about is, let me know if you liked or disliked this by hitting the corresponding thumb, because that actually helps me not only in the algorithm, but it also helps me know where the content is going and if it's really hitting with the audience. So that's the more important thing. Just hit the thumb, whichever thumb, but hit the thumb and let me know, you know, if I should keep going down the path I'm heading or if I need to take a fork somewhere. So that's what I wanted to remind you of real quick. Now let's get back to the show. And then in gaming and tech this week, it's been a little weird. We really need to talk about how Microsoft just shadow dropped a new console. We're also going to get into the limited time remix bosses over in Elden Ring. And we have another games showcase coming up. This time it's Capcom's turn, so we're going to get a little speculative as to what might be happening there. Gaming and tech's not huge this week, so we're going to get to that, maybe a couple other things, and there you go. Let's do this. All right, follow-ups and corrections for gaming and tech. We have one correction this week, actually, and it is because last week I couldn't remember the name of the little sidekick for Donkey Kong that's causing all of the timeline crises, because what the hell is Pauline is her name. What the hell is Pauline doing in this game? She's the original princess that Jumpman, before he was Mario, Jumpman was trying to save in the OG arcade for Donkey Kong that was technically Cranky Kong in the modern continuity. And oh my god, I feel like we're putting way too much thought into this storyline for basically a children's game. It's still fun, it's platforming, it's puzzle solving, it's great fun for people of all ages, but like, it's bright colors and big shapes. That's generally something for children, but whatever. I'm not judging. I just think it's silly that we're worried so much about the storyline in Donkey Kong, but whatever. That's our one correction. We do have follow-ups. We have Elden Ring Night Rain next up on the list. New update for Elden Ring is, again, free now. This is adding a new version of the original bosses before Night Rain, before the expansion. This is new versions of those bosses. It's going to be one boss per week until they cycle through them all. I didn't see whether or not it was going to be like once they hit the end of the cycle, if it's just going to start again and they're going to move through week per week until it's done, or it did say limited time, so I'm assuming they're just going to go through all of the original bosses and then call it good. But basically what they're doing is they're making them more difficult. They're increasing the difficulty level and they're remixing the way the bosses attack, because once you learn the pattern, that's how you beat the boss. You have to learn the pattern and then get fast enough to react to the pattern, and then that's how Souls-like games work, basically. Well, it's going to get a little bit more difficult. It is currently going right now. If you have Night Rain, you might want to go back to Gaping Jaw is the boss that is currently being remixed. He will be available until the 26th. So that might be today, actually, as I'm nope, that's tomorrow as I'm recording this. So hopefully I get this up soon so you'll know. But the next boss is a Sentient Pest and Dark Drift Knight are the successive bosses, and the remaining bosses have yet to be announced which order they're going to be remixed in. But again, it is presumed that all of the original bosses from the base game are going to be remixed for a week at a time. So that's pretty freaking cool. Next up we have, and also for this, the thing that you earn for beating these remix bosses is you'll get sigils for each boss, assuming you beat them. I don't know, I don't have Night Rain, I don't have that kind of time to put into a game. Well, I do, but I put that kind of time into Mortal Kombat, not into Night Rain, or into Elden Ring, rather. So I don't know what the sigils do, if they do anything. If you know, please let me know in the comments, because I'm very curious, but that's what we got, so let's move on. That is all we have for follow-ups and corrections. Let's move into regular-ass news, because we got no trailers either, sadly. Although, I guess kinda technically, the Capcom showcase is a trailer. It hasn't happened yet, so it's a trailer for the showcase, but really the news piece is the showcase, so we're going to talk about that in a second. First up, though, we have Meta Quest 3S. This is a new Xbox console. Microsoft has teamed with Meta. It's basically a limited edition Meta Quest 3. They're calling it, again, the Meta Quest 3S. And it is, once they are out of stock, they are done. Apparently Microsoft is not is not paying to manufacture, because I think Meta is technically in charge of the manufacturing. But once they're done, they're done. They're not making any more consoles. So this is super limited release. The big difference between this Xbox branded MetaQuest and the regular MetaQuest is you get an Xbox controller, and it comes bundled with not just 3 months of what is the service, it's called Horizon Plus, which is Meta's gaming service, but it also has 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate for the Xbox side of things. So this is, I mean, there are larger implications here aside from Microsoft just putting their brand on something that already exists and calling it something new, which is by and large what they did. But it seems that they're allowing more third-party consoles access to their gaming service, which is more indication of the future of Microsoft gaming. Because right now the big question mark is if they're releasing their proprietary games on other consoles, therefore no longer being proprietary, what the hell is the motivation to purchase an Xbox console? If I can just play Xbox games on a PlayStation in the future, like, where is this going? So it's still a little murky as to the end game that they're trying to aim for, but now we at least see a little bit more of the plan, I guess. I don't know, it's really weird, but it'll have access to Game Pass, so that's cool. Let's move on. Next up on the list is Mario Kart 64. This is a real quick piece that I wanted, because we talk about homebrew stuff from time to time here because it's really fascinating what the fan communities can do. Mario Kart 64, there's a little bit of preamble for this. So, oh man, it was about a year ago that they successfully created a decompiler for Nintendo 64 games, which basically means they can take the original code from the cartridge of these games and decompile it and then recompile it in a PC program so that you're not emulating hardware, it's running native on your computer, which makes things go a lot smoother for the modding community, makes things go a lot smoother for the emulation community, because it's not technically emulation, though you are changing the console. You're changing from console to PC, I guess is more appropriate, which again changes the experience a little bit, makes the game run better, and you don't have to worry about compatibility with console because you're not emulating, you're running native. So since that has happened, we've got a number of games that have been decompiled and recompiled on PC. Legend of Zelda and Majora's Mask, that's what I was looking for. We have the OG Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and there's a short list of other games. This is just the most recent game on that list. But it looks crazy because it has 16:9. Actually, it has ultra wide support too, which looks even crazier. But even just the 16:9 looks pretty crazy. Everything looks pretty fish-eyed because the way it was originally coded was for a 4:3 TV ratio because we were playing it on CRTs back in the day. And now it's being played on widescreen monitors and ultra widescreen monitors, so the stuff on the sides of the screen is getting super warped. It looks, again, pretty freaking bonkers, but runs very, very well. And I'm pretty sure there's even an online community for multiplayer. Don't quote me on that because I wasn't able to find that explicitly, but I'm pretty sure some of the videos I saw was people playing via online connection. So that's kind of awesome in and of itself. But go check out there's just some videos. I linked to at least one. I linked to at least one down in the show notes. So that's definitely worth a look on your part. But yeah, that's pretty freaking awesome. And then our final piece here is the Capcom Showcase. Capcom Showcase is happening on the 26th, so tomorrow as I'm filming this, which means we will be talking about whatever they actually reveal next week in next week's show. But it is expected that we're going to get much more of Resident Evil 9 Requiem. We're also expected to get a bit more of Pragmata, which really has me intrigued from the Summer Games Fest showcase, because that game looks pretty freaking wild. It's like BioShock in space. And I mean that, like I say that about other games, which applies, but I think it applies in a different way for this one than it does for other stuff. Like Outer Worlds is kind of BioShock, and Fallout had a baby and then it went to space, right? So this, though, is BioShock in space in that you kind of have a little sister at your side. She's an android, but like it still has a similar like storytelling dynamic, so it's really interesting. We don't know a whole lot about the story as it stands right now, so I'm hoping we get a little bit more at the Capcom Showcase. But yeah, your guess is as good as mine. What game are you hoping to see? We're very likely also going to be seeing some Street Fighter stuff because we're in the middle of the current release cycle, so we'll probably see gameplay from the next character, I would imagine, on the Street Fighter side of things. Beyond that, I really don't know what to expect. So again, what do you expect out of the Capcom Showcase? Let's talk about that down in the comments section. And then that leaves our suggestion for the week, because that was all we have for regular ass news. So, gaming suggestion this week, we're gonna steer clear of Mortal Kombat because obviously that's taking up all of my time. Also Splitgate, because whatever extra time I have for gaming is going to that. The other thing that I'm trying to get back into the habit of, because I have a couple of friends who are playing it actively these days, is Fallout 76. I have not been giving enough attention to Fallout 76. We got the new Gone Fission expansion, which from most accounts is kind of a meh kind of expansion, but you get the regular quality of life upgrades that you get with every expansion. It is still free for Xbox players, so there's that, because yes, please and thank you. And it's super cheap on other platforms too, so like it's not like you're really investing much. But your suggestion this week is Fallout 76. Bethesda had a horrible launch with this game. No one is saying that this was a great game to start with, but I really feel like it is getting in the realm of great. It's really good right now. I think they're going to get it great before they finally abandon it. But that's just my opinion. That is your suggestion for the week. Go play a couple hours of Fallout 76. See what you're missing with all of your friends. And yeah, let's maybe meet up somewhere. Comic Books and Books, we have some interesting news shaking up this week. First up, the details on the creative teams behind the other stories in that big Marvel DC crossover book, 2 books, I guess, that we're getting. We're also going to explore why one of the major indies has pulled out of their distribution deal with Diamond. And then to top things off, we're going to get into the first new Dungeons and Dragons book from Dark Horse. So let's get into all this to break it down, shall we? We actually have follow-ups and corrections for Comic Books and Books this week. It's all comic book news. I don't think we have any book news. It's all comic books. So our first one has to do with the Diamond situation. Diamond Distributors is really just dropping the ball left and right. They've been ghosting people. We've talked about this. Now we have a number of comic book publishers who are no longer distributing through them. That we've been kind of keeping tabs on that. And not the best detail, but still the most recent of those is Oni Press. The Oni Press Comics is no longer going to be distributing through Diamond Distributions. They will be distributing through Lunar Distribution. They are trying to minimize how much that affects their readers, though I mean, they're changing distributors, so it's going to affect a lot of people, right? Presumably, though, they're doing everything they can to make those hiccups as few and far between as possible. Presumably, it's for the exact same reasons that everyone else is pulling out of Diamond, because they were ghosted, they haven't been getting payments on time, etc., etc., etc. So, Oni Press, in their official statement, did say that they hope this is only a temporary situation and that things can get worked out between them and Diamond. However, for the foreseeable future, they will be distributing through Lunar Distribution. That's what we have there. Next up is the other follow-up for this episode is the Marvel DC crossover event that is happening later this year. We now know more about the other creative teams aside from the Batman and Deadpool main story. So if you remember, going to be primarily Batman and Deadpool is the big story in the 2 books, and then there's going to be a series of side stories, if you will, elsewhere. Is that what it was in Johnny? I can't remember. Johnny the Homicide Maniac, they had the elsewheres. Pretty sure that's what that was. Anyway, so let's get into this. I think the big name on this that is going to be, I don't know, kind of the most divisive. I don't know if necessarily like exciting is the best way to describe this, but Kevin Smith is one of the writers for these other books. Kevin Smith will be writing Daredevil and Green Arrow, both books that he's written for previously, and very notoriously did not finish his Green Arrow book. Pretty sure he finished the Daredevil book, but not the Green Arrow book, so that's really funny. Somebody else had to come in and do that. Andy Kubert is going to be the other writer on that. We're going to get art from the next creative team is Chip Zdarsky and Terry Dobson. They're going to be doing Captain America and Wonder Woman, which is really cool. And then we have Kelly Thompson, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, and I apologize in advance, Guri Hiru, who will be doing Land Shark and Crypto for the book. So that's kind of cool. We now know quite a bit more about this. I don't think there are any other stories that are going to be in these books. If there are, though, we will follow up and I will let you know. Until then, let's move right along into some regular ass news. And that is a brand new Dungeons and Dragons book, which is kind of noteworthy because this is the first time that Dark Horse is doing this on their own. Yes, technically speaking, we have got the other Dungeons and Dragons books. There was the Dungeons and Dragons and Stranger Things books, but that's not a solo Dungeons and Dragons book. We also have the Critical Role books are on Dark Horse, and those could technically be considered D&D books, but that's more the story that is written by Critical Role and is not directly from Wizards of the Coast. As far as Wizards of the Coast is concerned, this is the first official solo D&D book that Dark Horse is in charge of, so that is noteworthy in and of itself. The writer on this book is going to be Greg Pak, who did the Serenity series a few years ago that we covered in pretty good detail. style. So I'm pretty interested to see what he brings to this, because I really dug what he did with the Serenity book, or it's Serenity is the movie. Firefly, good Lord, sorry, brain fart, just kind of skipped the same thing. Firefly, he did the Firefly book years ago. I'm interested to see what he brings to this one. And we have art from Wilton Santos. We have ink from Edwin Alves. We have color from Raul Agula and lettering from Nate Piekos. The story is going to be based on the prose novel that came out last year from Jaleh Johnson, titled The Fallbacks Bound for Ruin. This is D&D The Fallbacks is the name of this comic. And then, yeah, it's going to be 4 issues long. That was the other thing. 4 issues long. On comic shelves, October 15th is when issue number 1 will be coming out. No word as to whether the frequency with which it comes out. I'm pretty sure it's going to be once a month, but that is just speculation on my part. That is the one piece of regularized news we have for comic books and books. Let's talk about our suggestion for the week. Suggestion. Honestly, we've been talking about this book so much, I'm kind of confused why I didn't suggest it earlier, but Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, that started in 2024 is the current book that is going right now. Ultimate Spider-Man, it is the alternate, technically the alternate version of Spider-Man, even though it is the one that seems to be getting the better sales numbers these days. If you're not on this train yet, you really need to be. Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cacchetto this is their take on Peter Parker being married to MJ. So like, of course, this is the ideal, and Jonathan freaking Hickman writing Spider-Man. Why would you not want to read this book? I don't know how many trades we have for it at this time, but it is, again, it started in 2024. It is the one that is currently going, so I think we have a number of arcs that have gone through. So pick up any one of them, because Hickman doing Spider-Man, gotta love it. That's your suggestion for the week. All right, nerds, we're gonna cut away from the show real quick, and we're gonna do our little sponsor spot. Dubby, channel partner, they have put out a new flavor, and it is s'mores. And that's what I have in here, is the s'mores flavor. S'mores is unique in that you mix it with milk instead of water, like the other powdered drinks that they have. But gotta be honest with you, this is addicting. It's 250 milligrams caffeine total in here, just like all of their other blends. 100 milligrams of that comes from the coffee fruit extract. So you have actually kind of a hybridization of the caffeine in this. We're gonna get a little nerdy about our caffeine intake real quick. So the hybridization comes from, you have the caffeine, I'm gonna have to look at the ingredients. It's anhydrous, that's the word I was looking for. Caffeine anhydrous is the artificial caffeine. It's the stuff that you metabolize really quickly. That is the stuff that you'll burn through really fast. And that usually is what gets you the crash, the quote unquote caffeine crash that you get from lesser brands of caffeine. Well, because you also have 100 milligrams of coffee fruit extract, which is where they get that caffeine from, that is the stuff that you metabolize a little bit slower, because it is a natural source of caffeine. So that's what helps you avoid the crash, is what I'm trying to say. That is why this is something that they can say you don't get a jitter from, because you have natural caffeine in here as well. So it kind of, you ride that a little bit better than you would the fake caffeine. You also have the nootropics in here. You also have the good stuff for your brain, the stuff that's getting you aware and conscious, so that you can do the nightly grind, so you can stay up and edit your YouTube videos for 12 hours, or you can do the study hall stuff and get ready for the test, assuming you're in school of some sort, or whatever the need is that you have for an energy drink. Dubby does it, and they do it cheaper. Each portion of this turns out to be right about $1. With your discount, it's a little bit cheaper, because you get 10% off if you go to dubby.gg and then use code GenerallyNerdy at checkout in order to buy your Dubby. I'm halfway through my first s'mores portion, and so normally I film these after I've already filmed the show for the day. We're doing it before, because I'm definitely going to finish this before I'm done filming the show, because it's legitimately really delicious. Like, dangerously tasty. tastes just like it's more like a chocolate shake with marshmallows than s'mores, but like that's kind of what s'mores is chocolate and marshmallows, right? And it's exactly what this tastes like. So Dubby S'mores is their new special flavor. They're the only people who do a s'mores flavor. Most of the other flavors they have are kind of variations on something that everybody else does. This is absolutely unique to Dubby. Super dig it. I'm appreciative that they chose to partner with the channel. I'm super happy for that. Again, is the website. Code Generally Nerdy at checkout gets you 10% off your whole cart when you check out. You can only use one code at a time, so be aware. And they run specials all the time outside of that too. So if you get on the mailing list, you'll catch all the specials. You can always use my code though, Generally Nerdy at checkout, and that will always get you 10% unless you have another code. So go check out Dubby. I'm gonna finish this soon and we're gonna get back to the show now. We have a lot of TV news this week, from reboots to revivals and so on and so forth. We're going to dissect what Sarah Michelle Gellar said about the reboot Buffy series. We'll also get into why Johnny Knoxville is the perfect chaotic choice to host Joe Rogan's old show. And we have the controversial vision of the new anime from the old Castlevania showrunner. He also did that Power/Ranger short. He's got a new thing going with Duke Nukem. We're going to talk about that. We've got quite a bit going on in TV, so let's get into it. Follow-ups and corrections here in TV shows. We have a big one. We have a really, really big one to kick things off. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the reboot series, we finally got a little bit of detail, and I say a little bit, we got a good chunk of detail from Sarah Michelle Gellar herself. Not only is Gellar going to be starring in the show once again, obviously, it's named after the character that she plays, but she's an executive producer on the project, which means she has some say in how this is going to play out. And so if anyone's going to know how this is going to play out, it's going to be the producer, right? So one of the producers anyway. She's not the producer. There are a few. But we have details. So pardon me while I read this. The interview comes from an Italian film convention because she's doing promotion for stuff. And so that's where the information comes from. She told fans there that they're trying to honor the series as much as possible. The tone for this new reboot series is going to be a little bit lighter than we got in the last few seasons of the original series. So presumably it was 6 and 7 were the last two seasons, and they got kind of dark. So they're going to lighten things up a little bit. Also, she said that they're trying to do everything they can to not only honor those original storylines and the characters who are returning regularly, because there are a number of characters who will be returning with regularity, not just Sarah Michelle's part, but I don't know that we've found out exactly who else is returning regularly, but they're also going to be making room for new characters. So we're going to be expanding the world of Buffy. And in that same vein, with the whole working old and the new, she also wants to try and bring back as many of the characters as possible, as long as it makes narrative sense in the show. So it's presumed that she does say anyone possible, but there are some of those characters who, honestly, we can't bring back. I can't even remember her little sister's name right now because the actress passed, sadly, a few months ago at this point. But we also very probably can't bring back her mom, and we very probably can't bring back a couple of people. But Angel's still alive. We still have David Boreanaz. We still have, I'm so sorry I brain fart these names so well. I seriously have seen every episode of Buffy. Cordelia, there we go. I just had to distract myself for a moment. But I've seen every episode of and it's the ADD, man. I just can't, sometimes names just are beyond my grasp. So, yeah, presumably that's going to be the people that we bring back. We're going to very likely see Spike. We're very likely going to see Angel. Very, very likely going to see Cordelia, because those are the big characters, I think. As far as Angel got his own freaking spin-off that featured Cordelia, so that would make sense. Spike became the new love interest when that happened, so these are big ones. But again, she's made allusions to the fact that they want to bring everyone possible back. So that's kind of cool. Very likely a bunch of cameos, but we'll see what happens. The other follow-up we have in TV streaming this week is Friday the 13th, the Crystal Lake series that is going to Paramount, Peacock, one of the two, I can't remember, one of the P's, is finally going into active photography. They're going into production. We're going to be seeing this sometime soon. Finally freaking happening. We don't know really much else beyond the fact that it is also being codenamed Mama's Boy is the new is what they're calling it. Like it's on the slates that they start each scene with, and I think that's freaking awesome. Super stoked for that. That's all we have, though, is moving into production. Super excited. Moving on, we have trailers this week for TV shows. First one is season 3 for the Daryl Dixon show, The Walking Dead universe. Daryl and Carol show continues, and now they're in Spain. And I mean, this is legitimately the best Walking Dead show. Like, honestly, at this point, I would say there's a strong argument to be made that this is the best Walking Dead show, including the OG. OG has a lot going for it, and I really, really love like seasons 5 through 8. That's really good stuff. Well, was it 8? 4 through 7. 4 through 7, that's what it was. Seasons 4 through 7 really, really rock. Seasons 1 through 3 are fantastic. Kind of 8 and 9 really kind of drug a little bit. 10 picked it back up, and 11 really sent it home. But the good stuff is, again, 4 through 7. But I would, Daryl Dixon, because probably it has the momentum from that first original series, is the better show. Like, let's have that debate, please, because I love the Walking Dead universe, but the Daryl show, probably because I really like those characters. I don't know. Norman Reedus is also a fantastic actor, and you just kind of love him in everything he does, so whatever. But season 3 dropped a trailer. Go watch it. The release date for this is September 7th now, so we know that for sure as well. On the same note, totally slipped my mind that Walking Dead Dead City season 2 happened, or was it season 3? Whatever. The most recent season just ended a couple of days ago, so I've got a binge to do. Anyway, is that the only? That's not the only trailer, is it? That totally is the only trailer. So let's move into regular ass news, shall we? This week's regular ass news, we have two pieces rather. One big piece, I think, is Fear Factor is coming back to Fox TV. Broadcast television is rebooting, what is that, reality game show, go figure. But it's interesting because Joe Rogan is a busy man, so he is not going to be hosting this. Who is going to be hosting the new Fear Factor, dubbed Fear Factor The Next Chapter? Johnny Knoxville. Like, why did it take this long for this to happen? Like, that is a perfect host for this. The dude who brought us Jackass is now gonna bring us people eating cow testicles and pig intestines? Like, yeah, okay, let's go. Yeah, it's going to be neutered, like, without a doubt. Fear Factor The Next Chapter is not going to do well for a number of reasons, not the least of which being not anybody really watches terrestrial TV anymore. Pretty much everybody watches streaming TV to some degree. So if they can't find a streaming home for this, it's dead in the water already. But it's also going to be highly neutered when compared to the 90s show, because even the 90s show started getting super neutered by the time it got canceled, which is one of the reasons why it got canceled, because people stopped being interested in the gross out stuff because it was kind of less gross. Anyway, still kind of cool that Johnny Knoxville is going to be hosting it. The other piece of regular ass news we have this week is Duke Nukem. Netflix is doing a Duke Nukem animated series, show ran by none other than the dude who brought us the Castlevania animated series, Ari Shankar. Also the guy who brought us was that weird like superhero movie that was a parody, not really comedy, but still parody of other superhero stuff. And the Power/Rangers short movie with James Vanderbeek playing the second Red Ranger, which was legitimately really freaking cool. That guy is bringing us Duke Nukem. Again, I'm pretty sure it's going to Netflix, though it has not been officially announced for Netflix. Just Ari doing his thing, or Addy Shankar, ADI, not ARI, Addy Shankar. Yeah, this is nuts. I'm really curious because he already has like a kind of a warped like sense of a lot of these IPs, as evidenced by the Power Rangers thing. but like in a really cool way, as evidenced by the Power Rangers thing and the superhero one that I still am blanking on the name. But the Castlevania animated series was very well executed and honored the source material. So did the Power Rangers thing. Honored the source material very, very well while telling its own story. So super excited to see what he brings to the Duke Nukem franchise. This has been potentially happening for years and years. Some sort of TV show or live action movie or animated movie, what have you, has been rumored or at some stage in production, early production, because production hell basically is how all of those projects ended up. Just kind of got shelved and nobody ever picked it up again. Addy Shanker's picking it up, so let's see what happens. I'm super excited about that. That is, though, what we have for regular ass news, which means we only have one thing left, and that is your suggestion for the week. With Gen V getting this close, the suggestion this week in TV streaming is The Boys. You have 4 seasons of The Boys to catch up on, and then if you catch up and you want to catch up on the last season of Gen V, do that as well, because also good. But The Boys is one of the best comic book related IPs out there right now in live action. Like, it's just very extremely well executed. I think Gen V even steps it up. But your suggestion is The Boys. Next week we'll probably do Gen V. But your suggestion this week is get your baseline down, know where we're coming from with The Boys series, and then you can graduate into the Gen V series, because I think that's slightly superior. But yeah, The Boys is your suggestion. We've already said so many things about how great this series is. For me to say anything more would be redundant. So that's your suggestion for the week. Go check it out. We'll see you. Let's move on. I do words.
Subscribe. That is all.
Movie world this week is kind of buzzing. We have some casting announcements in the Henry Cavill-led Highlander show and what that means for Connor McLeod. Speaking of casting, we have some crazy new casting announcements for the Street Fighter movie that are legit, unlike the other ones that I still think are rumors. I'm talking specifically about a certain rapper has been cast to play a certain boxer in the lore of Street Fighter. It's crazy. And finally, we have a name attached to the new X-Men movie. And it's mostly confirmed at this point, so we can legitimately talk about it. We've got that, and we've got a bit more in movies. Let's go. Follow-ups and corrections in movies this week is a little nuts. Because this has greater implications in the rumor mill even, because technically this is kind of almost in my brain, my headcanon for things is confirming some rumors, but we'll get to that. Let's start with Street Fighter. That's the big one. This is wow. All right, so the big thing here is this was gonna it started its life as a rumor. This was coming from a rumor source, and then it got confirmed by the actor himself. 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, is going to be playing Balrog in the Street Fighter movie. That is happening. 50 Cent has, I'm like, all right, so there is a very little bit of gray area here, because he did not say explicitly that it was happening. He agreed in a comment, in a response to somebody saying how hype it would be if he did, because again, it started life as a rumor. The rumor monger posted it on X. Somebody said, oh, this would be great. And then 50 responded saying, there's something about work hard or whatever. So kind of implicit that he's confirming this. So that's why we're talking about it as hard news, because I don't know how much more explicit he needs to be to really confirm that this is happening. So that changes the game a little bit, because those rumors that are still circulating about the other casting choices, the biggest of which being Jason Momoa playing Blanca, wow, that just got a little bit more legitimate in my head. It still is technically rumor, but now I think it might actually be happening. They might be really throwing a lot of money at this project. There is one other actually 100% confirmed from Capcom announcement for casting on this, and that is Chun-Li. Chun-Li will be played by actress Kalina Liang. I don't know what else she's done. I didn't recognize her face, so maybe she's done something great. I didn't honestly have the time to look her up this time. My apologies, because this kind of broke my brain for a minute, so I had to see how many ways I could verify it with the Balrog thing. But yeah, we have Chun-Li and Balrog at the very least confirmed. Wow, that's huge. Let's move on though. Speaking of casting, we have Roadhouse 2 has made a casting announcement. Dave Bautista has been cast. We know that for certain. The role in which he's been cast, or for which he's been cast, has not been revealed. That has a lot of rumor attached to it, so we'll talk about that in the rumor mill section. But we do know he is part of the cast for the follow-up to the Jake Gyllenhaal movie featuring Conor McGregor and the whole thing. It was a lot of fun to watch. Not exactly the best movie ever, but it was a hell of a lot of fun, so absolutely recommend if you haven't seen it. Dave Bautista, that's what we got there. Next up, X-Men. This is another one that is kind of confirmation of a rumor without necessarily 100% being confirmation, but in order for us to not take this seriously, I think that would be really naive on my part. So what am I talking about? Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther and Sinners and a number of things, has apparently confirmed that Jake Schreier will be directing the MCU X-Men movie, the first MCU X-Men movie. So Schreier has done a number of things, a lot of nerdy cred there. So, but the way this happened was in a movie, somebody was asking Coogler about directing the X-Men movie. He said, "Oh no, I think Jake's directing that one." So again, not exactly 100% confirmation, but he kind of casually dropped it and probably wasn't supposed to. So we're not going to get an actual confirmation for this from Disney for a while, but I think that's a confirmation right there. So that's what we got. Let's move into Jurassic World Rebirth. This movie has not yet dropped. It drops this weekend. I'm pretty sure it might be next weekend, but either way, very soon. And I feel like they're already losing hope that this is going to do well, because there was supposedly a very large reveal towards the middle-ish of this movie with a new dinosaur type, kind of like the last time they got desperate and they created the Spinosaurus or whatever the hell that was, the thing with the beak that didn't really exist, the giant thing that took out the T-Rex that was bigger than a T-Rex and more ferocious and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this time they're kind of going in a similar direction. They're creating a new creature. This is a mutant dinosaur, and they're putting it on the posters. So I think at this point Disney, or is it Disney that has this one? I'm pretty sure it's Disney. It's a villain. This is the dinosaur villain. It's the mutant dinosaur. It was supposed to be a big reveal, and now they're just putting it on posters. So I think they're anticipating this not doing well, because the reviews have started to come in and they're not doing well. So there's that. Next up, let's talk about the Highlander casting. Back to the casting stuff. Highlander, Henry Cavill's Highlander, they have cast their Ramirez that is going to be played by Russell Crowe. So, I mean, the father figure for Connor McLeod is going to be played by the actual father for Kal-El. That's kind of nuts that we have Russell Crowe being the mentor to Henry Cavill in two separate movies. So these two must really dig each other. That's kind of cool though. I think Russell Crowe's great. I think that's really, really great choice for Ramirez too. Ramirez originally played by Sean Connery in the original Highlander movies. So yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Next up, we have a couple of pretty interesting trailers to talk about. Let's get to the trailer section. First up is a new horror movie called Weapons. That is a horror thriller mystery thing that just looks insane. Absolutely go watch this trailer, because if you're into horror, you really should dig this. It is from the director that brought us The Barbarian. I didn't write his name down. It's in the trailer though, so you should definitely watch this trailer. Barbarian was one of the most unexpected, I think is a fair word for that horror movie, of the last 15 years. That movie just kind of, the twist kind of comes out of left field in a lot of ways and really gets twisted. And I think this movie has potential to one-up that in a more cathartic way. I would say pleasing, but I don't know that pleasing is a very good word to use to describe these kind of horror movies. But August 8th is the release date for that one. Next in trailers, we have the final trailer for the Fantastic Four. The Silver Surfer looks better. Still kind of looks bad, but looks better, so there's that. Maybe by the time the actual movie releases, they'll have finished her. But this is a little bit better. We now have, it seems that at least the trailer company, the people that are making these trailers, are listening to the audience, in that the last trailer, one of the big complaints from the core fan base was Sue was the one that was doing the voiceover. And the big rumor is that Sue is going to be the leader in effect, maybe not leader by title, but in effect for this version of the Fantastic Four. She's going to be the one that dictates things that happen, whereas they're going to make Reed into sniveling wimp of a man kind of situation. Like that's the big rumor, right? Especially amongst the more conservative kind of Comicsgate kind of outlets, right? So it seems that at the very least the trailer company saw that and went, well, maybe we should change this a little bit, because this time the voiceover is primarily coming from Reed, from Pedro Pascal's Reed, and we seem to be getting a little bit more Galactus. There's stuff in here that, like, a lot of the complaints from the community are being addressed in this new trailer, so that's kind of cool. I don't know that it's going to make the movie any better, because the trailers are doing a little bit better job of selling the movie. Emphasis on little, but still. Final trailer, go check it out, see what you think. Then we have a new one starring Channing Tatum. Totally random. The trailer starts out one way and then quickly heads in a very different direction, but it's called Roof Man is the name of this movie, starring Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst, and Peter Dinklage. This is definitely going to be an action comedy movie, and it's Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst, and Peter Dinklage in it. Like that, like it's... If nothing else, go watch the trailer and tell me that doesn't intrigue you even slightly. I mean, I know there's a contingency of people who just don't like Channing Tatum for whatever reason. He's a fine actor. Peter Dinklage, though, is a great actor, and Kirsten Dunst is Kirsten Dunst. Like, she just kind of is what she is. But yeah, it looks very funny. It looks very entertaining, and maybe is even better. And then our final one is another horror movie. More thriller, I guess, is probably appropriate. Sovereign is the name of this one. It's starring Nick Offerman and Jacob Tremblay, with Dennis Quaid in there as well, but he's the secondary character. This one comes out July 11th. On everything, it would seem. It's going to be on streaming, though I didn't catch where it's going to be streaming. It's also going to be in theaters on July 11th, so presumably a limited release in theaters. This is kind of sort of based on real life events. It seems that they've kind of amalgamated a bunch of... Sovereign is how to explain this to people who may or may not know what that means. Sovereign citizen is one of these people that gets it in their head that they are country unto themselves, effectively, and that the government under the United States, usually, I think most of the English-speaking nations have something like this in their laws that could be misinterpreted as a thing that you can actually do, but it seems that America has the most of them, and I think all of the things that are amalgamated into this movie are American stories, so there's that. But it's basically guys who don't identify as citizens of America. They identify as their own sovereign nation. They are unto themselves a nation of one. And just kind of the very violent political things that come from that kind of thinking, that kind of ideology, is what this movie's based on. And Nick Offerman looks nuts. Like, he might, like, I talk about all the actors that are always a win. Like, you see him in a movie, you're like, I'm gonna go see that movie just because that dude's in it. And regardless of what the rest of the movie is, I know his performance is going to be fantastic. Nick Offerman rather quickly is becoming one of those actors. I still think there's a couple of things that he's done and I'm like, I don't know, that kind of brings into question your abilities. But by and large, Nick Offerman is pretty much a win. So there's that. But this is... in his drama roles, in his serious roles, again, this is a thriller, I think he kind of shines the most. He's a very funny dude. I think he's even better at serious acting. Civil War notwithstanding, I think Nick Offerman is usually a win. So there is that. That is what we have for trailers, though. There is no regular news for movies this week. I couldn't find anything that didn't qualify as other stuff, so no regular news. Let's just talk about our suggestion for the week. We're gonna go with a horror that I have suggested on the channel once before, but it's been a while since the movie released, actually, and that is Late Night with the Devil. This is on Shudder if you want to stream it. I know there's been a physical release recently that is apparently a really good pressing for the DVD, so if you can find it, get it, because it's worth it. But this is just a super unique little horror movie based in like a late 60s, kind of early 70s talk show that was trying to compete with the big dogs, and so they went and did something kind of crazy. And so it's almost like a found footage meets throwback retro kind of horror movie, in that they're showing you the quote-unquote broadcast of what happened the night that all of these horrible things happened. And very unexpected, really good storytelling, and Peter Dashmalchin is not just the star of this, but he's also a producer on the project and knows how to tell a really good story, apparently. I'm pretty impressed with the way this movie turned out, and I feel like you will be too. If you're into unique horror, this is very much has a really hard psychological bent, though there is also like visual things here as well. So that is your suggestion for movies this week, Late Night with the Devil. All right, nerds, we're gonna cut away from the show real quick, and we're gonna do our little sponsor spot. Dubby, channel partner, they have put out a new flavor, and it is s'mores. And that's what I have in here, is the s'mores flavor. S'mores is unique in that you mix it with milk instead of water, like the other powdered drinks that they have. But gotta be honest with you, this is addicting. It's 250 milligrams caffeine total in here, just like all of their other blends. 100 milligrams of that comes from the coffee fruit extract. So you have actually kind of a hybridization of the caffeine in this. We're gonna get a little nerdy about our caffeine intake real quick. So the hybridization comes from, you have the caffeine, I'm gonna have to look at the ingredients. It's anhydrous, that's the word I was looking for. Caffeine anhydrous is the artificial caffeine. It's the stuff that you metabolize really quickly. That is the stuff that you'll burn through really fast. And that usually is what gets you the crash, the quote unquote caffeine crash that you get from lesser brands of caffeine. Well, because you also have 100 milligrams of coffee fruit extract, which is where they get that caffeine from, that is the stuff that you metabolize a little bit slower because it is a natural source of caffeine. So that's what helps you avoid the crash, is what I'm trying to say. That is why this is something that they can say you don't get a jitter from, because you have natural caffeine in here as well. So it kind of, you ride that a little bit better than you would the fake caffeine. You also have the nootropics in here. You also have the good stuff for your brain, the stuff that's getting you aware and conscious so that you can do the nightly grind, so you can stay up and edit your YouTube videos for 12 hours, or you can do the study hall stuff and get ready for the test, assuming you're in school of some sort, or whatever the need is that you have for an energy drink. Dubby does it, and they do it cheaper. Each portion of this turns out to be right about $1. With your discount, it's a little bit cheaper because you get 10% off if you go to dubby.gg and then use code generallynerdy at checkout in order to buy your Dubby. I'm halfway through my first s'mores portion, and so normally I film these after I've already filmed the show for the day. We're doing it before because I'm definitely going to finish this before I'm done filming the show, because it's legitimately really delicious. Like dangerously tasty. Tastes just like, it's more like a chocolate shake with marshmallows than s'mores, but like that's kind of what s'mores is chocolate and marshmallows, right? And it's exactly what this tastes like. So Dubby s'mores is their new special flavor. They're the only people who do a s'mores flavor. Most of the other flavors they have are kind of variations on something that everybody else does. This is absolutely unique to Dubby. Super dig it. I'm appreciative that they chose to partner with the channel. I'm super happy for that. Again, is the website. Code generallynerdy at checkout gets you 10% off your whole cart when you check out. You can only use one code at a time, so be aware. And they run specials all the time outside of that too. So if you get on the mailing list, you'll catch all the specials. You can always use my code though, generallynerdy at checkout, and that will always get you 10% unless you have another code. So go check out Dubby. I'm gonna finish this soon, and we're gonna get back to the show now.
That's classified.
All right, now let's put on our tinfoil hats and get into the rumor mill, shall we? This week, we're digging into the mountain of evidence that is John Barenthal's Punisher showing up in an actual MCU movie and not just his special that's going straight to Disney Plus. And then that giant rumor I teased at the very, very beginning of the main episode is a Feige rumor and Feige's future with the MCU. There is a really crazy rumor around this that is seriously going to change everything if it's true. And then we have some new whispers around Doomsday and its release date, plus a casting decision for Secret War. There's a lot going on with the rumor mill this week. Honestly, it's big as we've had in a while, so without any further ado, let's just try and unpack all this. And now the one that we're all waiting for, it's the rumor mill. We have a confirmation. We have a confirmation. Technically, I guess you could argue this isn't 100% confirmation, but I really, like I said in the movie section when we talked about this in depth, I think that if we don't count this as a confirmation, that we're missing the point. So X-Men, Jake Schreier is going to be the director on the MCU's X-Men movie. That is, I feel like all but confirmed at this point, so we're just gonna call it a confirmation. If I'm wrong, I will definitely admit my wrong, but don't think I'm wrong on this one. So, about as confirmed as we can get without an official stamped letter from Disney. Let's talk about new sources for old rumors. We have a couple of those. First up is World War Hulk. We have more different, others still more different sources now saying that World War Hulk, that is such a hard thing to say all at once, is actually on the list of movies that they want to build towards after the Secret Wars movie happens. So a lot of these theories about World War Hulk happening as a way to feed into Secret Wars, because we do have 4 spots that don't have a name on them for the release calendar for Marvel Studios. I don't think one of those is going to be World War Hulk. I don't think any of the rumors that we have now would be enough to make an educated guess that would be the thing. I think if anything, if we do get that, there's going to be a little bit of a build-up into that movie, and one of these 4 movies will probably allude to World War Hulk, but will not actually be that movie. So that's where we're at with World War Hulk. I'm gonna stop saying it now, I promise. Next up is Black Panther. We have another source confirming, according to them, because I still don't think this is true, just because, and this is definitely not even as strong a source as the last one when we originally found this rumor, saying that Ryan Gosling is going to play, at the very least, a version of T'Challa in one of these movies coming up, be it Doomsday or Secret Wars. We're going to see a white Black Panther, according to this rumor. Yes, I understand they are doing this in the comic books, but the comic book version of the Black Panther that is a white guy is technically the son of T'Challa. So there's that. So he's not actually 100% white. Also, they're making him into a villain. Therefore, I don't think Gosling is going to be associated with that. I think if Gosling does the villain thing, because he's done that, he's done the anti-hero before. He's definitely, I don't know if he's done straight villain necessarily, but he's definitely gone dark. I think if he does go full villain, it's gonna be the surprise for the new Star Wars movie, the Starfighter, that he's part of. That's gonna be the big surprise when they reveal who he's playing in the movie. He's gonna be the villain. I think that's more likely than him being the white Black Panther. That just isn't, it's just not gonna happen. I'm sorry. Very well could happen somewhere down the road in the MCU, sure, because they are doing the attempt in the comic books, but I don't think it's going to be this time. So yeah, even though, again, we have a new source that's saying it's happening, I honestly very likely think that this source is getting their information from the previous source that we talked about originally. That is what we have for new sources, though. So let's talk about the actual new rumors. And we're going to talk about the Bautista thing in Roadhouse first, because I think this one's the one that's very potentially the most fun. Not the most likely necessarily on our list, but the most fun. Bautista, rumor here is that he's going to be playing the role of Wade Garrett. If you'll remember, originally Sam Elliott played Wade Garrett in the original Roadhouse movie, where he was the mentor to Patrick Swayze's, whatever the hell his character's name was, I can't think of it right now. So that, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Whether or not the character's actual name is Wade Garrett, I think is kind of irrelevant to the rumor. I think the most likely scenario here is that Bautista, being as he's a bit older than the other actors involved here, he is going to be the mentor for Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Maybe he won't be called Wade. Maybe he will, who knows? So likelihood for this one is 85% that we're going to be seeing Bautista. Again, clarifying, we'll see Bautista as the mentor. Maybe not Wade Garrett explicitly, but Wade Garrett in spirit. From there, we're going to go to the most likely rumor that we have this week, and that is Spider-Man 4. We have it on very good terms that John Barenthal's Punisher is going to be in Spider-Man 4. I feel like at this point, we're this close to just putting it down as a confirmation of rumor and into the news sections proper, because like the trades have this one at this point. Still has yet to be confirmed by Marvel, Disney themselves, but at this point, like we've said in the past, if it's in the trades, it might as well be an announcement. So we're going to say 90% likely that Barenthal's Punisher is going to show up in Spider-Man 4, not as the villain, but as aid to fighting, presumably, Savage Hulk, because that is going to be the... Again, villain is such a strong word in this context. Hulk is not a villain. The antagonist of the story, possibly. Villain, it's not the word I would use. Next up, we have Star Trek. This one kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but I think it might be true. So, OG series, the original Trek as captained by Captain Kirk, we now have potential information that would imply that Akiva Goldsman is going to remake the OG series with a new cast, so that all of these prequel series that they're working on are going to feed into something he has a little bit more control over. Whether that means that they're going to basically canonize the original series or not has not been stated in any of the rumors so far from any of the sources for this, but it does sound like Akiva Goldsman, who is the producer on everything Star Trek for the last forever, is heavily alluding to the idea that they're going to film some sort of new series with a new actor playing Captain Kirk. So, and then the whole rest of the crew, I mean, we already have the new Spock, and so they would just have to kind of, the new Uhura too, that's Kelvin timeline Uhura though, so I think this would not be Kelvin, this would be their main timeline. Theoretically, they could take this in a direction where they do it as coexisting with the original series. They just want to tell new stories with those characters, and obviously those characters can't play those parts anymore. Those actors can't play those parts anymore for varying reasons. So they're going to cast new people to play the same part. So they're telling stories that happened in parallel to a certain degree. That might not be the case though. Either way, what's the likelihood that this is actually happening? This is really wishful thinking when I put it this low, but we're going to say about 70% likely that Goldsman is going to do this. Again, if you read the interviews and the sources that are kind of sourcing this for the rumors, it really sounds like I'm being naive with 70%, but that's where we're going, is 70%. From there, let's talk about Fantastic Four. These rumors really are they're going to end soon, and I'm thankful for it. But according to rumor, we have that Victor Von Doom, and Reed Richards are not going to know each other from school like in the comic books. And also this same rumor elaborates and says that through the course of the movie, we're going to see the death and resurrection shortly thereafter of Sue Storm. This is another one that there seems to be decent information pointing in this direction, especially considering the leaks, especially considering that leaked post-credit scene that I still haven't seen, but I have read a description of. In the description, there is a moment in the post-credit scene where Victor Von Doom is holding the Richards baby. What is his name? Jonathan Richards. Holding the baby, and they don't really know how bad that is. Like, you can see on their faces they're confused, because Doom is not the villain for the movie, Galactus is. So Doom comes in only in the post-credit scene. There's not going to be any sort of recognition of who the hell Victor Von Doom is. So they're not going to know how much trouble their baby is in by being held by this strange man in a metal suit. So that seems to line up with the idea that they don't know each other, and also the attempt at adding stakes by killing Sue Storm also seems to line up with what we know the MCU is doing currently with Feige. So we're going to say 70% for this one as well. Moving on, speaking of other things Feige's concerned with, moving on to Avengers Doomsday, we have 3 separate rumors for Doomsday, all of which from the same source to varying degrees of verifiability, so therefore varying degrees of likelihood. Let's start with the most likely, and that is release date apparently is being bumped once again. It's going to be announced soon that they're going from December of 2026 into May of 2027 for Doomsday. This one, I think we're looking at 60% likely. Like, I think there is reason to believe that they are kind of biting off more than they can chew in a lot of ways. So I will not be surprised if we get another bump. So again, 60%. Next up is casting. We have a rumored casting for one of the cameos for one of the alternate versions of our heroes. We have Bella Ramsey is reportedly been cast to play a variant of Tony Stark in the movie. This one, I don't know. I could legitimately go either way on this. Like, I wouldn't put it past them because Bella Ramsey is raising, her profile is rising. She's becoming more and more of a desired actor for a lot of projects. So that makes sense. But also, like, would they really want to take the time and put somebody with that rising star into a cameo so they theoretically could not use them to better degree in the future? That seems like either one of those things could be logical. So we're going to split the middle and say 50% that we'll see Bella Ramsey as a Tony Stark variant. And then the other rumor here is White Queen. We're rumored to be getting a reveal of Emma Frost in Doomsday before we get the X-Men movie. And this one there's been some form of this rumor for a while, really going back to the Fox Marvel universe. So like, it's hard to put a lot of weight on this. I do think we will start getting reveals of mutants before we get to the X-Men movie. That is very probable. Is Emma Frost big enough name for that to be fan servicey enough? I don't think so, but I do think that the sentiment is legit. So we're gonna say about 40% likely that Emma Frost will be one of the early reveals. I think that we will be seeing Emma Frost in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I just don't think her reveal is going to be in this jam-packed movie where we have 750 other cameos that have to happen that are throwaway cameos and that are very likely going to serve the purpose of the story slightly better, right? So continuing on, let's move now over, staying with Marvel. We're now moving into a casting rumor for the next Doctor Strange movie, which this one, at best, we could only go 50% because the existence of a Doctor Strange 3 is very much still rumor. So we have Liam Neeson being rumored to be playing Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange 3. I mean, it's Liam Neeson. He's in a million other nerdy things, so I'm sure he would be down for it. There's just something about this. It's partially the source, because the source has not given a very good track record up to this point. So until that starts getting better, we really can't give a lot of weight to the source. It's the only source that's saying this. And also, just Liam Neeson. There's something about Liam Neeson being the villain for a Marvel movie. It just doesn't sound, just this part of me just really does not believe that this is happening. I can't really put it necessarily into words. So we're going to say 40% on that one as well. Liam Neeson as Mordo just, seems off. And then big MCU rumor. If this is true, this legitimately changes the entire trajectory of the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Secret Wars. So the rumor here is that Kevin Feige, and I can't even say this with a straight face, Kevin Feige is reportedly going to be leaving Disney Marvel after Secret Wars comes out. After the release of Secret Wars, Kevin Feige's just going to say, peace, I'm out, you guys have fun, good luck doing whatever you're going to do. No. I do think that Feige will retire eventually. Will he retire while the company is still hemorrhaging money? I don't know that they would let him, to be quite honest. So it is Disney. They have ways of making you do things. So yeah, this is a really poor, terrible source, honestly. I just thought it was really an interesting brain exercise of what could that lead to? What would the larger implications be if the brain behind all of this, theoretically, was not there anymore? Would they replace him with somebody? Would they replace him with a team of somebody's? Like, how would that go forward? I just don't think it's happening. It will happen eventually, just definitely not right now. So we're gonna say 20% likely that Feige is gonna be leaving Disney Marvel after Secret Wars. That just does not pan out. Speaking of things that don't pan out, Hawkeye Season 2. Apparently, according to the rumor monger, they are actually planning on moving forward with a second season minus Jeremy Renner, and it even goes so far as to say that they're going to move into production on a second season sometime this year. This is even less likely because this kind of flies in the face of much more legitimate rumor mongers saying that the reason that Disney lowballed Jeremy Renner is because they didn't want to make this show. So if they don't have Hawkeye for the Hawkeye show, they can't make a Hawkeye show, therefore they can use him in the movies to much more better effect. That stands a lot more of the logic test than, oh, they wanted Jeremy Renner to not be part of this, but they're gonna do it anyway? Like, that doesn't make any sense. We're gonna say 15% likely that we will see a second season for Hawkeye without Jeremy Renner. I will be incredibly surprised. 15, I think, is even generous. So, our final rumor this week is kind of a whimsical one, and that is that there is a live-action Bratz movie in the works, and not just that there is a live-action Bratz movie, but Kim Kardashian is going to be playing the villain for said live-action Bratz movie. With the success of Barbie, I'm really surprised that this took this long to be even rumored, let alone actually happening. Also, Kim Kardashian as the villain for something like this just sits in the right place as far as like things Hollywood would do, things that Kim Kardashian would do. So we're gonna say 65%. This is really just going on feels at this point, but like that is legitimately marketing gold if they can make that happen. So yeah, 65% that we'll see live action movie with Kim Kardashian as the villain. All right, so that brings us to our speculation for the rumor mill. Speculation for the entire episode, I guess, technically. This has to do with Spider-Man, the Spider-Man 4 movie, with this John Barenthal stuff going on, with the very probable antagonist of the story being the Hulk. I really think that this is the kind of spectacle that Marvel is looking for. I really think that with all of that spectacle involved, this movie is going to surprise in a good way with box office numbers. There's been a number of rumors saying that they want to do something more grounded, which, if you're gonna do something more grounded, The Punisher is a great way to go because it's not really a galactic kind of superhero that when you think of The Punisher. But also, the Hulk, I think, is a fair, when he loses his mind, like they have Sentry is kind of the idea why I think this is such a great idea, such an interesting idea, because what they did with Sentry is a version of Superman. He is one of the Marvel Supermen's, but they made him flawed in, psychologically, which is how he is in the comics. I know this, but the better version of that is Savage Hulk, because that's a much more widely known superhero, is the Hulk. Slightly less known is kind of the different versions of Bruce Banner, right? So if you have Hulk, the Professor Hulk that we've been dealing with up to this point, who has not been doing well with audiences very much. People really don't like the Hulk that much. as Professor Hulk. They don't really like Mark Ruffalo, I think, is a big part of that. Bringing him back to Savage Hulk to such a degree that his mind breaks and he can't control the transition, nor can he control the wanton destruction and the kind of craze that comes with being Savage Hulk, to the degree that he's viewed as the antagonist for a Spider-Man movie, is something that is slightly familiar to normie viewers who aren't necessarily super familiar with the comics, but still they're familiar with basic character points for these big characters. I think you have kind of a perfect storm for a great movie. We're doing a psychological thing because they're going to try and get through to Bruce in the same vein that they tried to get through to Sentry, right? So we're doing a psychological thing. We're going to execute it better because this is a character who has a history with the audience. This is 3 characters who have history with the audience and that are beloved amongst the audience. Again, unless you take into consideration that people are kind of divisive on the idea of Mark Ruffalo. Like, the character of the Hulk is something that the fans like. Ruffalo, kind of, some people can take him or leave him. I just think that we have really a perfect storm with Spider-Man 4, assuming that these rumors are actually true. And if they are, this is just going to be huge. So I think this is going to be a surprise. I think that Spider-Man 4 will be much bigger than Fantastic Four will be. And I think that is going to be the new standard of quality movies when it comes to the MCU. So that is my speculation for this episode, for the things coming forward, and so on and so forth. So that's where we're going to end the rumor mill. And pick up on housekeeping. We are still about 2 weeks away from the Social D show, which is the next big thing that's going to throw things out of whack. But then we have like a series of weeks. We have Social D, and then I'm going to a family reunion, and then there's a number of things going on. I'm going to see other family the week after the family reunion, just different side of the family. So we are coming up on a couple of weeks of crazy. So just a heads up, I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out at the moment. At least one of those weeks will just be a shortened show. Probably one of those weeks will be we'll do a couple of reactions. We'll get those in the can so that they can come out during the week, because I don't know if I'll be able to do a news show. And then one of those weeks is probably going to be some sort of hybrid thereof. So that's what we got for housekeeping. Thank you very much, nerds, for sticking around to the end. I appreciate your faces. Don't forget to go check out, use your code GenerallyNerdy, get 10% off of everything in your cart. It's pretty awesome. Also, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Share the show with everyone you know, because that is the way that shows like this grow. I know it's the rhyme, but the rhyme sticks in your head, right? We remember rhymes better. That's why you know those Dr. Seuss books by heart, because rhymes are easier to remember. So share the show with everyone you know, because that is the way that things like this grow. Is the only way, honestly, that things like this grow, because the algorithm's not doing me any favors. So again, if you watch this far, then you really like the stuff that I'm doing here. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much, nerds, for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.